we have few questions as of now. I would request everyone, if you have any specific questions, please post in the Q&A box. And we have almost 8 questions here. So we would like to have this program more interactive, understand your any suggestions, any queries we would like to address today. So the first question, our Narsinga Rao, who's regular in all our webinar series, he has one question is, what is the amount of heat and temperature required to ignite the fire in an electrical installation?
Actually, there is no fixed temperature for that. It depends on the kind of materials which is going to start the burning. So it can be anything, probably even 100 or maybe 300 to maybe 500 or 1000. So there is no fixed temperature here. It depends on the equipment.
Yeah, you're very right. So it can be anything. Plastic has a different temperature, wood has a different temperature, paper has a different temperature. So it varies from material to material. So yes, this whole recording PPT will be shared to all of you by Monday or Tuesday. So you will get the link in your mail that you have shared here today. So Riaz Ahmad Qazi from Hyderabad, how to check my equipment is appropriate earth or not?
See, you have to measure the resistance. Resistance in the sense, the continuity resistance. Imagine you have an equipment connected to your power supply. The resistance, this is actually applicable for class 1 equipment. You must understand that electrical equipments are classified into class 1, class 2, and class 3. This is safety earthing is required for class 1 equipment. From the earth bus bar or earth terminal of your equipment to the earth bus bar of your incoming power supply, you are supposed to measure the resistance with a micro-ohmmeter of, let us say, 10 amps current, and you should see that the resistance is lesser in the sense, imagine the connected wire is 4 square millimeters of wire and the length of the connection is, let us say, 20 ohms. So 4 square millimeters of wire have certain resistance into 20 meters. So you should the resistance of the wire multiplied by the length you can calculate and you compare with the value. This is how it is done.
Oh, we have another question. This separate earth pits misbelief needs to be busted in a big balloon. So he's very strongly urging that having a separate earth pits misbelief needs to be busted in a big balloon. How do you react, sir, for this?
Yes, actually, in my view, that is the biggest problem in India, because a lot of engineers think that the earthing means in the earlier days we have the Britannia advertisement, light up like a bulb which was glowing. So people, if they listen to the word earthing, immediately they think that it is a pipe in soil or it is a plate in soil. So which is wrong. Earthing means the measures which is taken to reduce the step and touch voltage. That's it. Yeah.
Okay. So what is role of SPD for hospital? I don't know, what is that?
Yeah, SPD is called as a surge protective device. SPD has got a large major role in hospital because I would say not only SPD, shielding, cabling, screening, and SPD. That means the entire measures to protect the sensitive equipment are important. SPD is one of the part in all, in the whole transient over voltage protection phenomena. Simply putting an SPD probably may not be useful. You have to understand it and you have to put it appropriately. Of course, SPD is a very important component for hospital because you have a lot of highly sensitive equipment. So you require the protective measures such as SPD, screening, shielding, bonding. All the 4 are required.
So how do you ensure that these 4 are done it by the contractor or by the installer? So is there any way to check something?
There is no way to check. Actually, these are installation practices. You have to, the only way is you have to have a deep knowledge into the the technical requirements of the standard and don't violate it. You simply follow it. What is written is simply follow. So basically, there is no, of course, testings are there. SPDs can be tested, screenings can be tested, but it will be very difficult to explain, in a short way.
Good. Sanjay Mulai is saying, if I am not wrong, TNS system is not used in normal industrial installation.
Yes, that is also quite unfortunate. TNS system is not, even though it is recommended, TNS system is not used in industries. But now the awareness is more. People will start using it. Earlier, there were no forum which was explaining how a TNS must be made. But nowadays, after our trainings, a lot of organizations start explaining about TNS system, and of course, over a period of time, it will come.
Yeah, Mahesh Desai is put a question. I'm not very clear about it. I'll just read out. One of the incident came to know from investigation lab that during MRI, person came to know incident and died. What might be the reason? So the question is not properly worded. One of the incident came to know from investigation lab that during MRI, person came to know incident and died. What might be the reason? So Mahesh Desai, if you can put that question once again properly, we could probably able to tell you. So I'll move on to Syed Bakar Hussain. What does Nfpa recommend for suppressing fire in MRI and other lab in hospitals? So we normally recommend, our water mist is something that we can use, or we have a clean agent. So normally the clean agent is done through external cylinder, external piping, and bring in with our tubing system. And so this is something which is normally recommended for MRI and other lab. Of course, if you have aspiration system, very early detection system, which also is used for detecting the smoke and water mist, and the clean agent system is what is advised. So Prakash Kamath, if we can build an atomic station with zero error and oil and gas installation with almost zero error, why can't we build hospitals with zero error as a regard to safety? Completely I agree with you, sir. I don't agree with people who claim that medical charges work out already high and safety costing increasing it further. Gopal, he's saying everything can be zero. Why not hospital? A wonderful question. Whom should we, address this to? Hospital management, or the doctor who's practicing? Can he demand the management as a, practitioner every day? I keep seeing many hospitals, even doctors are not aware of the safety practices that is been, implemented in the hospital. So in many cases, there is no detection system, there's no sprinkler system, even the electrical room, whether it is protected or not. So somebody should, raise this question to the management. If the safety consciousness come and demanded, I'm sure every hospital can be zero accident. But over to you, Gopakumar, you have anything to say on that?
Yes, of course, probably zero error will be too high, but a very, very high degree of safety can be achieved. Let us say 99.99%. But I was, during this COVID time, I was doing some kind of audits in hospitals. I visited at least, several hospitals, which those who are having LT connection, HT connection, and so on. I also did some comparisons and webinars earlier. Out of, let us say, on an average, how many hospitals these measures are implemented properly? I would say probably 1% or 2%. That's it. More than 50-60% of the hospitals, the basic requirement itself is violated.
If any of our participant wants to, come in, you want to talk here, we can allow you to, have a dialogue in person. So you raise your hand. My colleague Lakshmi will allow you to speak. So you can just raise the hand if you have something that you want to talk to Gopakumar in detail. Lakshmi, on the participant on the right side, you can say allow the participant to speak. So you can, people are raising, 5 people have raised, so you can allow them to join in. And so I will go to Firoz. Firoz, you have something to say? You can unmute and speak.
My question is, which type of use electricity fire hazard in fire extinguisher?
It depends, sir, where you want to use. CO2 is what is used in our electrical panel. We have a tubing system used with clean agent in electrical panels. So what type of extinguisher, you can write to me. My mail ID is given. I can send you a document, type of extinguisher used for different materials, so that I can share you later. Okay.
We go to the next category, sir.
Yeah, you can allow one by one, and I'll go to the next question. Mahesh is asking, how can we control electric shock?
Very simple. Potential difference is creating electric shock. If there is no potential difference, no electric shock.
Very simple answer. So Tara, can you hear me? You can probably.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. It is a very lovely presentation. And really, we are enlightened. I have got a general question. Basically, we are working mostly in government hospitals in government Odisha. So there, we are working with PWD, who are making a huge scale of hospitals, cancer hospitals, trauma hospitals, mother child's teaching hospitals. So there we are facing a difficulty because all the equipments are being purchased after the building is completed. So the purchase is being done by some other agency. It's not R&D. So it is very difficult to align the electrical system for the equipments, particularly for specialized hospitals like say cancer, PET CT, MR, all the mother-child facility, or trauma facilities, neurosurgery facilities, orthopedics. So we are facing this difficulty. Our MEP consultants and the design of the building and the equipments procurement, they are not properly aligned. So what we got the comprehensive idea about from your presentation is that it must be going together. Otherwise, it is very difficult to go for a zero error strategy for the equipments and for other safety precautions, whatever you said. How to address?
So thank you very much for the actually an very interesting question, sir. I think such questions we need to address properly. It doesn't mean that other questions are not addressed properly. Sorry for that. See, there are two things. One is you have the building, or let us say the electrical installation. Later, you are going to use equipment. You are going to connect the equipment. So these two things must be handled separately. Whatever I was explaining is predominantly the electrical requirements in a building. That means in a hospital. That means in a medical location. Now, if your medical location is electrically equipped to handle the electronic equipment, then the second part, you are buying the electronic, let us say first part, you are constructing the building. The MEP designer has made all the provisions of safety in the building. So the contractor has installed all the provisions for safety, and the person who is doing the testing also tested for all the provisions. Then the second part is only the medical equipment. You can buy it probably after some time, after a few years, because your installation is going to be constant. You are not going to change the room later on. So equipment can take, it can be a second purchase, or it can come maybe after a few years. Nothing happens. Now, these equipment also satisfy additional requirements. So both are required. And we need not have to club the installation requirement and the equipment requirement. It can be separate.
Here, here I would like to say something that most of the time our client or the user department, they are not able to provide us a comprehensive equipment requirement for most of the hospitals. So we need to follow the IPS guideline for that. So many places, some are with a raw voltage, raw current, some are with UPS supported. So we are really in a very dilemma how to go ahead.
I would say, sir, the system need to be improved. System need to be improved so that all the requirements are handled very well.
Exactly.
You know,
Because,
we cannot change the system. Please go ahead, sir.
Exactly. In fact, it is not possible to change the system overnight, but we want to attain maximum accuracy. And listen, sir, in PG postgraduate hospitals or general MBBS 650 capacity hospitals, teaching hospitals, or the super specialized hospitals, their equipments play a very major role. And in such case, without providing the equipment specification, if as per you, we are going for the electrical installations as per the specified rules, I have failed grossly to go for accuracy in minimizing the errors.
Thank you, sir. I will move on to the question from Sukhdev. How often need to test the earth pit for medical equipment which was earth? How often we need to test? Yeah.
If you are talking about the resistance of the earth electrode in soil, I would say you need not have to test for the purpose of safe operation of medical equipment. No test is necessary and no test is mandatorily required in any standards. You don't need to do it.
Okay, I'll move on to Ramakant Sharma, who is listening to us. Ramakant, please go ahead and put your question.
So am I audible, sir?
Yeah, very clear.
Sir, I wanted to ask you that I'm associated with a very big hospital of 1200 beds, and it has got a very big campus in 84 acres, and there are only one electrical engineer is there. So testing of equipments as per IS 732 and additional safety as per IS 17512. Then additional testing from IS 17512. Is it mandatory, sir?
It is 100% mandatory. 100%
Okay.
mandatory.
Okay. But the inspectors who are coming from the authorities, government authorities, I think their auditor is only pressing more on the fire norms, not on this electrical safety policy.
Yeah, you see, the problem
and
is...
that's why this area, electrical safety, is very gray in the hospital. Neither doctors know, nor the dean knows. The engineer, only one engineer is there, and such a big hospital and medical college is there. So we are finding very difficulty in coordinating and getting the systems tested as per the requirements, especially in the oxygen-rich environment areas.
I think it's a very difficult situation to handle.
I think that software which Mr. Gopakumar solved. So probably if you use that tool, probably if you can introduce to the management. So it's a small software which you can check yourself, and that it's a very handy tool that they have developed. So I think you can have a private chat with Mr. Gopakumar to see how, having one electrical engineer, maintaining 1,200 bedded hospital, impossible. That's very impossible. And as I said, yes, fire safety is given more priority than the electrical safety. But people don't know electrical safety. Sometimes if you ignore, that is the one which causes the fire. So,
yeah, that's why the hospital more of the electrical accidents are occurring, because the authority is also not pressing for the electrical audit. They are only going for fire audit. Have you done fire audit? These are the questions they are asking auditors.
Even the
Actually,
fire
I would like
auditor doesn't go detail on the electrical equipment. Fire auditor will only talk, check on the National Building Code followed, or the NABH recommendations and followed, but they do not go on the electric. But however, you can have a one-to-one talk with Mr. Gopagan. I'm sure he has some solution for your hospital management.
I would like to add one more point, Mr. Dominic. The point is, see, the electrical inspectorate of the state government, their mandatory testing is required only for
coming once in
notified
a year,
voltage and
and
above.
sometimes they are not coming also.
No, because hospital is low voltage, which is under notified voltage. So legally, they need not have to test. It is the responsibility of the user to do it, not the electrical inspector.
These are the problems that the user, I told you that it is 1200 bedded hospital and only one electrical engineer is there. So he didn't get the time to do, even I am forcing him to do audits, electrical audits and all. So
I think the solve will solve your problems. That's what I would say. I think you can go in detail about that, the software that he has developed for electrical safety. It will help you, sir. Thank you, Ramakant. Moving on to the next question. Narsingara, again, dear sir, what are the functional tests which are to be conducted as a part of safety audit? Any meter are there for testing these functional tests? Please explain.
So there are several functional tests. First, we should understand the protective devices used and the function of those protective devices, such as relays, such as like fuses and all. And each and every protective device has got an associated test. So the different meters, sometimes fault loop impedance meters are required, RCD testers are required, leakage current monitoring is measured. So several different meters are required for that. We will explain it probably in another session in detail.
Okay. Thank you. Karthikeyan, if you are listening, you can unmute and speak.
Yeah, good morning all. Good morning, Gopakumar sir, for your wonderful session. I have a doubt in your one of the slides, so which is similar with my office setup. One of the slides says it is installed like 10 to 20 earth bits near to near. So we have an facility building. We take care of all the UPS supplies and the transformers. So we are together. It's a legacy setup, I would say. It's a 25-year-old setup, but we are serving racks to customers via UPS source as a single phase supply. So what kind of risk is there? So if I would skip this, or I should take an initiate to replace the earthing in some other distance. If yes, what would be the minimum or maximum distance?
So you mean to say that you have a building with a lot of earth electrodes and you are supplying single phase supply to your consumers? Am I correct? This was the 2 points.
Yes, I would clearly say it is a data center.
Okay. Yeah, I understood. So in this particular case, see, number one, making separate earth bit transformer, neutral body, isolation transformer, UPS, all these separate to earth bit. That itself is, anyway, we need not have to talk about it. Very simple answer is it's wrong. Number two, you are supplying power to your consumer. Tomorrow, if the consumer is coming with a faulty equipment and connecting to your system, you need to ensure that your protective devices are disconnecting. If you have separate earth electrodes, probably the OCPD kind of protective device may not trip, which may lead to an accident, probably a shock accident or fire. You need to take care of it. So now I would recommend that you make the system a TNS, a proper TNS system, so that you are sure that your devices are tripping.
Since it is a legacy site, customers are critical. So during, say, for example, say I would say if a UPS, we have a 2 dedicated earthing for one UPS system. If I if something are identified or something are not identified. If in the live case, if I touch the earth and I'm rerouting and I'm reinstalling a new earth pit and connect to that, so what would be the impact? If that will disturb my load or what?
If you connect your equipment to one more earth bit, nothing is going to happen other than getting some mental satisfaction. Electrical satisfaction, definitely it won't help in any way. But if you wanted to see that your devices are not tripping because your the load is a data center, what you can do is you can go for an IT system. The secondary side of the isolation transformer, you can implement an IT system with the insulation monitor, so that even if the client connect a faulty device, you will get an indication rather than tripping. That way you can handle it.
Thank you, Karthikeyan. I'll move on because many questions and others are waiting. So I will move on to the question from Krutivanti Narasimha. So do ELCB as practice to be installed in operation theater equipments?
Yes, as an additional measure, yes, because I think also the ELCB with a very lesser residual operating current under certain conditions are necessary. Yes.
Okay. I will move on to him. Sanjay Mulay, you can unmute and speak.
Yeah, thanks Gopukumar and Dominic for the nice session. We really appreciate the way you are taken up the subject very and creating a lot many awareness. My question is that Gopukumar, everywhere when electrical inspector comes, he always take the objection on when I connect earthing system between lightning protection and equipment earthing connected to each other. They said no, it need to disconnect it now. Now the question is that, is there any provision written in IS 732 where I can convince these guys that it can be connected each other, equipment lightning protection or lightning protection and equipment can be connected together, and it will really make a lot of benefit out of that instead of segregating it?
Of course, this segregation is absolutely not correct. You have to interconnect and with a very short wire. Mr. Sanjay, actually, IS 732 is talking only about the low voltage system.
Yeah.
Whereas if your question is about a high voltage system, especially the 11 kV, 33 kV and all, you can go to the safety regulation part number 7, the regulation number 74.
Mm-hmm.
But more than that, there is a new IS code which explains how to connect the earthing of surge arrestor in the overhead line, or not in the overhead line, the substation. Probably I can send to you. You can refer that.
Yeah,
Connecting
please.
separate to earth electrode is absolutely wrong.
Yeah. That I convince only. These guys are not getting convinced. So what I do, in front of them I disconnected. Again they went back. Again I connect back to this system. That's what I'm doing. But my management says, Sanjay, they objected. Why you're doing like this? But I said, this is not the right way. Okay, if you send me something document, Gopka, it will be really highly appreciated for me to have this vision. Yeah.
Actually, today afternoon we have 4 o'clock. We have a program where we are discussing about the regulations. And Mr. Apo, sir, yes, sir. We can hear you now.
Sorry. It got disconnected because of some buffering that occurred. That I have been promoted as a panelist. While clicking that, it got dragged. Okay. Coming to I would like to, my answers would be like to supplement Mr. Gopal's detailed explanatory webinar, and invariably people are asking number of earth electrodes. People often forget that once we provide an earth electrode, the leakage current will go forever. It will go and dissipate into the earth and it will disappear. That's a wrong concept. Earth return path will always be coming to the source, not to the earth. The inner part of the earth, except the lightning, which has a reference between the cloud and earth, the general mass of earth, that discharge alone go to the deep general mass of earth, not the source from transformer generators. They will all be returning to the source itself. So the very concept of TNS system is to provide an efficient earthing system. And the earth electrodes are intended for maintaining the phase to neutral. That is a reference. It's only a referencing. So as Gopal sir rightly told that providing too many earth electrodes is only give you a mental satisfaction. Providing a TNS earthing system alone will get you a clear provision for making the fault clearing device to trip before the right time. So this is the intention of TNS, but we can't insist that you provide T and TT or IT. It all depends upon the type of installation for OT, operation theater, for computer installations, for residential installation. Most of the places we require TN system. In some industrial places, we may require TT system, as in Japan they are doing, because supply continuity is also important. And coming to the part of lightning and inspection by electrical inspectorate, I would like to say something, because you can't expect. There are 3 crore consumers in every state. I think I don't know who raised that question. You are having only one electrical engineer for installation, but unfortunately there are only few hundred inspectors for crores of electrical installation. You imagine how they can come, but there should be a system evolved, and the consumer, if the consumer is accountable, if they are responsible, you actually don't require even an electrical inspector for installation to come and visit. Of course, it's similar to you are not having wearing a helmet. Then why do you expect a police to stand at each traffic police station? You wear your helmet. You don't expect anybody, traffic police, to come and inspect and ask you to do it. You be a responsible person. And regarding the lightning arrestor, what I can say is, see, electrical inspector can't be expected to be a jack of, to be a master of all. You are a master of your own entity. If you are a lightning arrestor manufacturer, you will be a master in that. If you are a hospital installation, you will be a master in that. If you are a biomedical engineer, you will be a master in the medical equipment. So, but electrical inspector, he cannot become a master in every field. But in this particular specific area, there is a lot of confusion because of 2 separate and distinct earth connections and the earth electrode. The lightning arrestor flush should be run to the separately. So these are the misleading terms. I hope the CEA regulations is now amended suitably to avoid ambiguities. No doubt, the lightning arrestor's F flush should be interconnected with the equipotential body or body earth connection. Then only the loop formed by the equipment will be protected, and the lightning arrestors as well as the down conductor will be small, and inductive drop will be less. As a result, your lightning arrestor will not become a victim during the surge diversion. Instead of protecting it, it will become a victim. So it's a science. Science can never be compromised. The rule can be changed, regulation can be changed, and the standards also, not the science. So you have every right to argue with the electrical inspector, and we are also learning from you. As you learn from us, we are also learning from you. So everybody is a learner, and there is no harm. But the standards have to strongly be appraised to the enforcers as well as the inspectors and among the people like you. The thing is, there are well-established standards. Even IS 732 is specifically saying interconnection of different components. And IEEE 142, IEEE 1100, a lot of things. So with this, I don't want to drag on much. I would like to compliment Mr. Gopal and Ramni for their wonderful.
So, thank you, Apavu, for sharing your vast knowledge and experience being a chief electrical inspector of Tamil Nadu. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Sanjay Mule, for joining this conversation. We look forward to continue to be part of our webinar in coming days. So I'll move on to the question from Sagar VK. What is the sensitivity of each leakage protective device for an endoscopic electrical equipment?
Yes, earth leakage protective device for an endoscopic medical electrical equipment. I really don't remember, but I can check and inform you. I think probably it's about 10 milliamperes. But
Sagar,
if the
you
protective,
have yeah, go ahead,
yes,
go
please.
ahead.
Yeah, if the protective supplementary equipotential bonding is carried out, I think you already achieve a great degree of safety. But this part I will check and let you know. You know, we are answering all these questions in our blog. So you can see the previous programs with the answers in our blog. So we will post this probably in 2 days and give you the link so that you will be able to read it. Thank you.
Sagar, in case we miss you to answer your questions later, you can always send us a mail. You can see Gopkumar mail ID and my mail ID. So we'll always will welcome to answer further queries on this. Thank you, Sagar. I'll move on to anybody. Sri Kishan. Sri Kishan, would you like to come join us for the conversation? Mr. Sri Kishan? Okay, I'll take up the next question till he comes back. Yashwant is asking, what is the specific safety measures in child ward considering fire?
Actually, the child ward, as I explained in the previous table, I don't remember exactly how it is categorized, whether it is a P1 or P2, but that is a group 0 location or group 1 location, but probably I can just check up and inform you. It is categorized as, one moment. It is categorized, the child room, there is nothing category like child room, but if it is an critical area, of course it is either P1 or P2. The safety measures which is required for P1 or P2, the group 1 or group 1 or group 2 has to be implemented. There is no categorization as such like a child room.
Move on to Syed. Can we use water sprinkler? I don't know where you want to use. As I said, all the critical room of the hospital, where any scanning or MRI or CT, wherever the critical equipment are, I ideally recommended to use clean agent only. So it's safe for the equipment. So, let's move on to Mahesh Desai. Is it possible during MRI that people get electrocuted? How it can be avoided? So Mahesh Desai is asking.
Yes, I think this is the sub question of the previous question which we read. So this is the correct question. Of course, yes. As I said in my first slide, you don't need to touch an equipment because medical equipment are a lot of the technical word. Let me go through it one moment. So this equipment has got the self-magnetizing, things which is internal. For its operation, it is creating a kind of magnetizing, elements are there, and it produces electromagnetics. As a result, induced currents and voltages or induced currents can happen in some parts of the installation, and it can be harmful. Yes, of course. That is why the safety measures like touch voltage reduction and all these mentioned. If those safety measures are not implemented, of course, the MRI scanning machines such as the one which you have told, it can create electrocution. Even there are some research papers which is published. Probably I can search for it and give to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's go to Chetan Pawar. UPS output RCCB 100 milliamp used to trip without any finding. What might be the reason?
Oh, there can be some leakage. Either your RCCB is faulty, or if the RCCB is not faulty, there will be some leakage in your wiring. See, 100 milliampere electrical. If you are connecting to one equipment, 100 milliampere leakage current, the equipment shall not create. The maximum leakage current shall be limited to less than 10 milliampere in an individual equipment of up to 32 amps current, a fixed equipment. So the answer is probably your RCCB is faulty, or probably the equipment is having higher leakage current.
Again, in continuation to SPDs, some also says that although the equipment are highly sensitive, still this concern is very well taken care by OEM itself. Necessary measures are provided by OEM in equipment designing itself. OEM is not going to rely on your installation of the equipment sensitivity when SPDs are connected, which is ultimately makes it optional or secondary. Probably answering to the question of earlier.
No, not like that. That is actually a misunderstanding. Each and every electrical equipment is supposed to withstand certain voltages, impulse voltages. The equipment vendor is providing an SPD. Imagine you have an SMPS power supply, or you have a small power supply. The power supply inherently it can withstand only, let us say, 1 kV voltage impulse. But if you wanted to connect this power supply directly to an electricity supply from a transformer, the minimum impulse voltage withstand must be 2.5 kV. That means class 2 equipment. Sorry, the category 2 equipment, only cat 2 equipment are supposed to be connected directly to a power supply from a transformer. Now, your SMPS power supply can withstand only 1 kV, but your equipment as such, it need 2.5 kV. What do? You install an SPD inside your equipment and ensure that your equipment is able to handle 2.5 kV. For that particular purpose, equipment vendors are installing SPDs. Don't mistake it thinking that this SPD will protect the electrical installation. No, you must require SPD at the distribution levels as well, which has to be selected and installed based on the categories of your electrical installation. Thank you.
Sanjay Malay, you can come back. I think you have one more question. You can raise your hand. My colleague Lakshmi will allow you. So meanwhile, I'll take the other question. I will take another maximum 2 or 3 questions because we are running out of time, and each questions will be answered by Mr. Gopakumar later. Individually to be answered. I'll go to Shesha Babu, who asked, how can we reduce the interference of electrical magnetic field into electronic instrument, which can be the cause of error?
Yes, see, especially in the hospital environment, the amount of EMI is very high in comparison to a normal electrical installation. Because your equipment inherently are going to produce magnetism and self-inductance. So the protective measures must be implemented at the beginning of the electrical installation. Protective measures are like screening, shielding, bonding, proper routing of cables, proper separation of cables, and sometimes filters and SPDs. All these are required. So if you install those safety measures, of course, the problems due to EMI can be very much reduced.
Kulwant Singh, you're saying that self-activated fire extinguisher comes suppression. It is ideally good for electrical panel location, definitely not on the critical equipment like MRI and ICUs and other places. Self-activated extinguisher can be recommended in the room, record room or electrical room. Hope I'm clarified that. I'll go to Sanjay Mulay. You wanted to ask second question?
Yeah, Gopakumar and Dominic, thanks for giving me the chance to ask second question. Now, Gopakumar, we are in the business of chemical manufacturing, and we have handled a lot many flammable, liquids and combustible powder in my plant. Now, as you rightly said, TNS system is effective because in TNS the fault current loop impedance is very low, the fault current very high, and the protective system operates very within time which is required. But question is that when I implement the TNS system and in my plant, if any fault happens with any equipment, when the fault current goes back to the source, that is amount of current is in Ka very high, and possibly there will be loose connection, earthing connection in plant that will create a spark, and that spark can be acting as source of ignition to the flammable atmosphere. So there is a worry for me always that whether in chemical plants where I'm handling the chemicals, wherein I'm expecting some flammable atmosphere to be happen. Whether this TNS will be really helpful or it is again create a potential of source of ignition. That is what my worry.
See, when you make a TNS system, you must ensure that the loose contacts and the places where those tests are also included as a part of TNS. For example, joint resistances, sometimes it is about 0.1 ohm or even lesser, about few milliohms. So depending upon what kind of circuit breakers we are talking, or depending upon the line current. So if you are able to achieve those least impedance paths, and if the joints are thoroughly welded, which is sometimes a mandatory requirement for explosive areas, then the system is safe. If you provide a chance for a loose contact, then of course it's dangerous. So that is, if there is a loose contact, whatever the system is, it is dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, especially in chemical operating plants, where we are expecting flammable atmosphere, this is very highly dangerous. I agree with that, Gopur, but only it's a big plant, and to make sure about integrity about connections, sometimes a bit difficult because of this. But yes, I agree with you. We have to maintain the proper, either you have to weld it or we have to make sure that proper connection has to be done. Otherwise, good system can go into the, can be potential of creating an issue at my side. Thanks, Gopal. I agree.
Thank you.
Last two questions I will take. Sagar is asking, what is the sensitivity of an earth leakage protected device for an
This we already answered. No, this we already
answered. Is it?
I think
Okay. Navdev Singh, any government checking on installation and non-regular interval regarding the efficiency of equipment and quality of equipment? Any government agency checking?
Of course, there is no government checking. Especially, we are talking about low voltage installation, and mostly the electrical inspectors are responsible for voltages above the notified voltage, not low voltage. So as such, there is no government checkings. But if we look at the way the regulation is made, regulation says, every 5 years we are supposed to test at least the insulation resistance of the connected equipment. Which is a mandatory requirement by the electricity supply company. But most of the time, I think the electricity supply company is also not doing it. It doesn't mean that the supply company should come and do the test. Sometimes a contractor can do the test and submit the certificate to the electricity supply company. But all these are in paper. Only very, very few people follow it. So technically, it is the responsibility of the user. If you want a safe installation, then you have to be alert and you have to take the responsibility and do the test.
So Niranjan is asking, ELCB is still necessary in IT system or for OT?
Yes, of course, yes. Because if the leakage currents are beyond a certain limit, it has to be disconnected.
Okay, the last one, if you can read out, Gopakumar, it's too technical for me to read out. Please conclude this one for all. So,
yeah, what are your thoughts about the earthing provisions for pole-mounted distribution transformer 100 kVA to 500 kVA? What power utilities or even others specify 6 to 7 numbers of earth pipe or multiple earth pipe rod? What could be the correct way of earthing at such sites of a typical distribution transformer installed pole mounted? If, as per you said, multiple earthing pipe is not a standard method, and why it is still implemented by even power utilities? Actually, this is a big subject which we need to take up to a higher level. If you look at the regulations, basically the power utilities are supposed to follow the regulation. As per the regulation, the power utility is supposed to give a TNCS or a TNS supply. And in a TNCS or in a TNS supply, with in case of any fault on the high voltage side, the voltage appearing at the consumer premise must be lesser than certain limit. So considering all these things, the transformer HT side and LT side must be connected together first. Then from there it can be connected to an earth electrode in soil. This is number one. Then on the distribution, there is either a fifth conductor is running as a TNS system or the fourth conductor as a TNCS network. It is called as earthed conductor or earthed neutral conductor. Then this earthed or earthed neutral conductor also has to be connected to earth electrodes in soil. I think 3 times in every kilometer or so. At the consumer premise, again a TNCS or a TNS system has to be followed. But all these things are there in the document, but nobody follows it. Mostly the utilities are not following it. As a result, what happens is, in some of the cases where we are seeing daily, TT kind of distribution is made. Transformer HT and LT, sometimes it is connected, sometimes it is not connected. What can happen is, number one, whenever there is a fault in the consumer premise, disconnection by the fuse will not happen. That means every consumer premise, you are supposed to provide a 30 milliampere RCD. If RCD is not available or if RCD is not working, of course, the shock or fire hazard at the consumer premise is happening. This is point number one. Because the utility is not following the regulation. Number two, whenever there is a fault on the transformer HT side, multiple equipment at multiple consumer premises can fail, because whenever there is a fault on the HT side, the potential, the ground potential or the GPR is transferred to the LT equipment, low voltage equipment, and multiple equipment can fail at the same time, which may lead to again fire or other accidents. So the question, why it is not implemented by power utilities, I really don't know. Power utilities, of course, most of them are not following it. We have to ask this question to them actually, why you are not following. So over to you, Mr. Dominic. You are on mute.
Yeah, thank you, Gopakumar, and we are almost reaching 2 hours 15 minutes. Most of you, are probably thinking, what is SOLVE? SOLVE stands for a safe operation of low voltage electricity. So the website details are mentioned in the chat. We would like you to visit the website, give your comment, and see how this software, which has been developed by Mr. Gopakumar, can help your facility. So that's a new launch of getting the system safe, electrical equipment safe, or electrical installation safe. So I also want to thank Appavu, who's been very patiently listening to us and attending most of our webinar. Sir, before I conclude, one good word from you, sir. Do you think that we need to continue this crusade of creating awareness on best practices on electrical safety?
Quite sure. I am fully supporting that. You should be continued forever. At least we should have a lot of Gopakumars. One Gopakumar have done. One Gopakumar have done propagation among nearly say 15 to 20,000 people. We got lakhs of people and repetition of because myth. There are several myths. It is very tough to erase the myth from the people. The detraining is the most important part. We have to forget what we have learned so far, and we have to learn new things. What is the correct thing? So it is very difficult to erase the wrong from the human brain. That should be done first, and I think Gopakumar is rightly doing it. I wish him all success in his full-fledged and untiring efforts. Mr. Dominic, also please support. You people like you and so many people should support. I think today evening also we are having some questions which can be answered in detail. For example, noise mitigation in data centers are 18 solutions, are lightning arresters. So many myths are prevailing. We have to solve those things first, and we should apprise and empower the inspectors, the engineers, contractors, these and the manufacturers. So I think our exercise will do a best thing to the country. I wish you all success.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
As you suggested, yes, we will have one panel discussion. We have wonderful people around us. We have Bhavani Prasad, who was the CPWD Director General once, and the man who, taking care of night landing lightings and public library in Delhi, the Parliament Library that is built with best practices. So we have a good people around us, including you. We can have one good panel discussion and take more than we can take a lot of questions from the public. So what I'll do is I'll probably invite question from people before we start the webinar, and probably we take on priority, which one need to be addressed first. So we'll continue this webinar, and thank to the technology, thank to the virtual world that has given to us during this pandemic, through which we were able to touch thousands of people in the last 1.5 years. And I want to thank Gopakumar for utilizing this technology to spread the awareness on electrical safety. And you have become the face of this, as I said. Sachin Tendulkar means is cricket. So Mr. Gopakumar is becoming on safety crusade, awareness, the missionary of electrical safety. So I also wish him good luck, and we look forward to see you all once again. We will come back in April with another interesting topic, discuss with Mr. Gupta and a couple of others. We'll come back to you. And thank you so much for listening to us with so much patience. And I have almost 80% of people who attended, who joined earlier, that still remained there. And that encourages for us to do more and more. So over to Gopakumar for final comments.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Dominic, for your appreciation. Although thanks, Apav sir, for your appreciations. Of course, I am not a very big expert on this field. I know only probably, 20% of what is necessary. But I am still trying to learn daily, day by day, because, once when we attend the IEC meetings, after each meeting, then only I realized that my knowledge is only even less than 20% of what is necessary, because we have to improve a lot. And what we follow is really, especially the first point we need to improve is this earthing. As somebody said, this separate earth bit has to be kicked out of our nation. Then only our electrical safety will improve. So thank you very much. Thanks to all of you. Let's wait for the next session.
Thank you, sir. All of you have a great weekend and stay safe. Thank you very much. God bless you all. Thank you.